Hey, good morning, Maria, back with another video. It's December 12th, 10:57 a.m. I believe today is Tuesday. That's correct. I sound a little nasal right now. Looks as though I have a cold and a very light fever. I didn't have to turn the heater on this morning because my body temperature is kind of warm right now. So I'm trying to take care of myself and get better. My voice is also very, very scratchy at the moment. So I was thinking about, talking about sexual harassment as well as other forms of harassment that take place in the workplace. Man, my voice is really messed up. I just want to kind of outline some of the descriptions and what these categories fall under because, I know that managers should get training every 2 years, or supposed to, on this, but yet they still tend to fall into these habits of doing these sort of things anyway. But anything that basically puts a person in a position where they are being spotlighted, made to feel uncomfortable, falls into that category. So the first one is, I'm going to put the links in the description box of some of these people who wrote some articles talking about the description and the outlines of these topics. A lot of it I've covered already, and I noticed that there was one that was written in November 10th, which is like 2 days ago. And I'm really glad that this person wrote this article. A lot of it is pretty much talking about the same thing that I was talking about earlier. All the links will be put in the description box. But the first thing I want to talk about is anytime a person makes a racist or negative comment, that could be construed as workplace harassment, okay? Offensive gestures, drawings, or clothing may also constitute harassment. You should address those sort of workplace bullying. It's a form of workplace bullying, and it is a form of harassment. And oftentimes, you go to human resources, and sadly, many times the human resource professional is just as, inadequate to handle the situation because they are being influenced by a group of people who somehow brainwash this person in spite of this person's training and so-called knowledge that they've acquired, and they continue to participate in something as foolish as this. So instances of workplace harassment include discrimination such as making negative comments about an employee's religious belief or trying to convert them to a certain religious ideology. That's against the law, obviously. Using racist slang, phrases, or nicknames. Making remarks about an individual's skin color or other ethnic traits, in my case, referring to my hair. Displaying racist drawings or posters that might be offensive to a particular group. I know somebody a few years ago said that somebody put a noose on their desk at work. Obviously, that is a form of racism. Making offensive gestures and making offensive references to an individual's mental or physical disability, sharing inappropriate images, videos, emails, letters, or notes in an offensive nature. Now, I'm assuming that when I was going through this, obviously the reason why these things spread so quickly is because they're using things like social media, text messaging. Oftentimes when you're a target, you'll be out in town. Now, I'm not saying this has happened to me, but it could have very well been. You might be out in town or something, somebody's snapping pictures of you, sharing this sort of stuff. All of this is a form of harassment. Offensively talking about negative racial, ethnic, or religious stereotypes, making derogatory age-related comments, wearing clothing that could be offensive to a particular ethnic group. Like, for example, somebody might think it's funny to dress up like in like an African-type outfit at work or whatever. That's just an example. So these things have been explained multiple times. This particular person wrote an article basically talking about the health effects of sexual harassment and how some people experience things such as post-traumatic stress disorder, which I believe that I've experienced. I mean, you're constantly being traumatized over and over and over again, first at the workplace where the issues actually occurred, and then being called in for job interviews and being plagued and toyed with. It is basically what these people have done is created a hostile work environment where, harassment doesn't just affect the victim. It actually it spreads like wildfire in a way, because it creates some sort of psychological disturbance in the people who are involved in it, and it brings out a very hostile nature. And so by calling a person in for a job interview and denying them employment based on those reasons, are illegal, believe it or not, especially when a person is dressed professionally. I have seen in many cases, I've had employees that I've worked with in the past in different jobs who've had, like, breast augmentations or whatever, implants, I'm sorry. And to me, that is a very sexually explicit. It's a statement in a lot of ways. Okay, I have never worn anything like that to a job interview or wore low cut blouses or anything like that. So I find it very offensive that I'm constantly being pointed out and singled out. That right there is a form of sexual harassment. And how these people, I'm talking about my previous employers, could have let this slip by is definitely jaw-dropping to me, and I'm extremely traumatized by it. This person is using the word traumatized in their article. Dr. Colleen Cullen, a licensed clinical psychologist, notes that for victims of sexual harassment, the most common diagnoses are depression, anxiety, and even post-traumatic stress disorder. An experience with sexual harassment can trigger symptoms of depression and anxiety that are new to the person, or it can exuberate a previous condition that may have been controlled or resolved. Patients may also see a worsening of symptoms. Some researchers have found that sexual harassment early in one's career, in particular cases, cause long-term depressive symptoms. Someone going through or dealing with the aftermath of sexual harassment may also exhibit symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder, especially if the harassment leads to violence or an assault. Now, I've never experienced violence, but I have, received what I consider to be verbal assaults, or when people call me in for job interviews that are fake. That to me is also assault. It is an assault, in my opinion. Okay, it's a direct form of harassment. And what makes it feel so traumatizing is that they don't realize that they're playing with your life. It's your life. It's your way of taking care of yourself. It's your ability of, it's like basically saying, well, I'm holding this over your head. That right there is a form of harassment, and it's very threatening, and it's, in my opinion, considered assault. Sometimes sexual harassment registers as trauma, and it's difficult for the patient to deal with. So what literally happens is the body starts to become overwhelmed, says Dr. Nishia Hammond, I believe that's how you pronounce her name, a licensed psychologist. We call it somatizing. The mental health becomes so overwhelming, one can't process it to the point of saying, I have been traumatized or I am depressed. Essentially, it's the kind of denial that, when experienced for a long state, can turn into physical symptoms. I was wanting to kind of talk about how, oftentimes, like, when you're dealing with people, like, for example, women can be the biggest pushers of sexual harassment, even though, you could be sexually harassed by someone, a member of the same sex, especially if it results in bullying. Like, for example, some women like to let's just say, for example, this is an example, okay, because this particular scenario didn't happen to me, but let's just say, for example, there's a girl at work, and her boss is constantly making advances to her, unwanted advances, okay? Now, I cannot say that any of my bosses made direct advances to me, okay? I can't say that. But I will say that, because my sexual harassment issues are a little different, but we're going to use this as an example. Let's just say, for example, her boss is constantly making sexual advances to her. And then these girls, as stupid as girls can be, would get jealous over something like that. Now, the girl who's the target of the sexual harassment, she's under stress because you never want her job on the line, and I know oftentimes when in those sort of situations, people are using all kinds of, things to dangle over that particular person's head. So this person is feeling extremely stressed out, traumatized, victimized, and basically cornered. So then you have these petty, catty women who to me, are so immature and foolish to think that this person is in any special position to be. Basically, her life had to have her life threatened the way it is. But they get jealous over super stupid stuff like that. So then they intensify the sexual harassment by creating more gossip, spreading lies, talking about all of this stuff, and basically ostracizing the girl when the girl's done nothing wrong, okay? It's very stupid for a woman to ever get jealous over a sexual harassment issue, period, okay? It's nothing that brings her any honor. It's something that is very devastating to her. And but women can be what I call co-signing, or somebody who wants to intensify the issue of sexual harassment. This happens quite often, especially in the workplace, and they like to create the hostile environment. So anyway, I thought this was a really good article, and like I said, I have like 3 different articles I'll be referring to. It is a very traumatizing thing to be involved in, okay? This, to me, in this issue, it relates to my race, and it also relates to I did about my religion. I don't think the religious aspect of it is so much there anymore, but whatever the case is, I'm not somebody who's trying to stir the pot. I just want to get on with my life. And, I made a video last night, 2 videos yesterday, basically telling these people, hey, could you clear this up, because I'm tired. I have tried to look for work. I'm doing everything I can. And so whatever you guys put in place, you guys want to help me get a job, fine, help me get a job, but please, stop putting me in situations where because there's nothing wrong with a person trying to help a person get a job, okay? There's nothing wrong with that. But what is wrong is me going to job interviews, being harassed, and it's harassing, okay? If I'm going any long distances, if I have to sit here and spend money in my vehicle or whatever to get a job, and these people are just playing games, I don't have time for that. I don't have time or money for it. I don't, okay? That is psychologically damaging to a person, as well as traumatizing. Because you can't believe that somebody would actually be so stupid and foolish to do something like that, okay? I feel assaulted when that happens, every time. I've been through enough of it, okay? So obviously, if this particular network created these issues, then they are in the position to do as much as they possibly can to reverse the issue. Okay? People don't understand that. I also wanted to say that women, men can be sexually harassed too, okay, and it does happen with men as well. But women tend to get it more often than anyone, okay. And it's not necessarily something that a woman does either. I mean, I've known, I think I brought this person up before in the past. I had a friend when I was growing up who was sexually harassed at work. And I would say that this girl was rather plain in appearance. And sometimes people know who they can get away with because of the fact that I thought she was pretty, okay? I mean, in a very unique way, okay? But a lot of people would not consider her to be like the ideal beauty, okay? But because of that, some people look at women like that and they know that they could get away with it, because if they try to complain about it, then people are going to not believe them. They're going to be like, well, yeah, I bet you wish that somebody would come on to you. But the fact is, they did come on to her, okay, because she was very well endowed for her age and very well developed. I mean, she had what I call an ideal body, meaning she was, hourglass cut, and she had like what you call a very big bust line, okay, and she dressed very modestly, okay. But the fact is that because she had, what I consider the aberrant, kind of like, it looks up like an how do we call it, aberrantly, maybe, I don't know, how would you describe that name, that word, but anyway, people basically took advantage of that situation, and any complaints that she made were completely ignored by management. And so a lot of times people choose their victims wisely. So it's not necessarily based on what a woman looks like. It's oftentimes what people feel that they can get away with, okay? In my case, my issue relating to my hair, because that's pretty much the only thing that has changed, since I got into this town. I moved here in 2000. So everything else, I mean, I look basically the same. And my hair is not an issue. It shouldn't be an issue for topic, okay? I do realize that through the years I've changed my hair quite often, okay? So that's one of the reasons why I decided to just have one particular hairstyle, one, instead of switching so often, finding something that works for me. And that's what I did, okay? I realized, you know, you can't keep switching around that much. But often, I was also experimenting as well. So it's not really anybody's business, to be honest with you. But whatever the case is, I don't want to be involved in any more fake interviews. I don't want to deal with that. If you guys on the back end, and I'm referring to Karen Johnson, the farmer, and all these other people who got involved in it, since you created it, make sure that you do what you can to reverse it, because I'm the one who's suffering, okay? It was not an administrative decision that was based on logic or reason. It was one that was done on impulse and every time somebody works on impulse, they're going to forget everything that they've learned in their training, and that's unfortunate. And that just kind of shows and improves my point. But whatever the case is, you know, I need to get back to work, okay? And so I'm trying very hard to get my life back together, because this has completely shattered everything inside of me. It really has. It has created nothing but problems. As for the innocent people who got involved, you know, I fully understand your point, but still, ultimately, the responsibility lays on the employer. They are trained, and they should know better, you know. There is no excuse to let something like that happen, especially, you know, I think I was pretty... I served somewhat as an informant and tried to inform people about the differences between African Americans' hair. I mean, not just African Americans, African hair or black hair. I've tried very hard to make those to talk about that issue, but yet still this whole thing spiraled into whatever, and it's inappropriate. Okay, I'm the one who's suffering the effects from it. I'm the one who's going, and like I said, to say, oh, you know, she's doing okay, is egotistical on their part, because basically now you're trying to choose my job, and now you're trying to speak for me as well. Don't try to speak for me, okay? You can't feel what a person's feeling. So, you know, that it makes me a little uncomfortable that people would actually make these sort of decisions for me as an adult, okay? Like I said, I'm not angry with Mr. Cute Boy. I'm not angry with him, but I am angry at, you know, the employers who got involved in this. I don't want things in my life to be, you know, communal. I don't think it should be, okay? I'm a respectable person. I've always tried to do what's right. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I certainly don't deserve, you know, what's happened to me. I don't deserve it at all. So anyway, do what you have to do, get this fixed up, because I'm tired, you know. This has been going on entirely too long. I'm being affected, and each and every employer should be paying my bills. That exactly. Period. Okay, there is no way that you could even dispute that. Each one should be dragged into court and sued for everything that they have. Period. And then that's not a lie. It's not. It's the truth. Okay, it is the truth. So I shouldn't be sitting here scraping by and getting money from other people, my son or whoever. I shouldn't be doing that. Okay, this is an employment issue that these people had plenty of warning, plenty of training about. And it falls under the guidelines of this sort of harassment. So I'm going to wrap up this video. And I hate to sound like a broken record, but when you wake up every day dealing with these feelings, you can't help but talk about it and express it the way that I have. I mean, because I feel completely victimized. I do. I feel completely victimized, okay? So anyway, wrapping up this video. Be back with another one later.